That's okay. What I'm going to do is you guys still have to code the today's application, but what I will do is I'll do a lot more hand holding. Okay, I'll kind of direct you guys. Again, I will explain the concept. You guys still have to code that part out. Let me start this stream and then. I mean, there's the streaming link, but it won't really help because today is we'll be doing a small project anyway. Okay. So what I will do is I'll start with the teams first, and then I'll show you the final product. The product is a similar thing. At the end, you have to deploy it to Heroku. Okay. If you had issues, but what I'm going to do is I shouldn't be doing the project, but I'll at the end of the phase I'm going to start solving the some of the parts of that project, and towards the end I'm going to try my best to deploy it in Heroku also. Okay. Again, please don't wait for my solution. I would prefer you guys do each phase and kind of complete that phase on your own. Okay. All right. And pull up your Star Wars app as a reference also, because that's what it's kind of very similar to that. All right. So we are still, again, I like 4 in each group, but we are still short of 2 people. If somebody walks in, then we'll put them in group 4 and group 5. Okay. So please go ahead and stand up, get into your group, and then I'll explain the app that you're going to be coding it. Really? Wow. Not so random.
Andrew, join us. Is he in your group? Yes. Oh, nice. Who wants to move over there? Sure. You're close to that too, and we'll take you up on open spaces right here. You're Blair. Project 2 is going to be parking
I don't know.
What are you confused? Joffrey, Andrew, Blair.
But I was like, he's not one of the people up there, so I was like, why are you saying that?
I'm moving, don't worry.
I'm going. You need a second to set up.
No, my chair.
Right down here.
I got it done. At least for like.
All right. So let's go ahead. Looks like everybody is in the group. Nope. All right. All right. Everybody good? Okay. So this is the final app that you guys will be creating and deploying it to Heroku also. Okay. Now, with the conclusion of this app, you will have a front end. Okay. And then you will also have a Node.js, or let's since we are going to use Express, I'm going to call it Express server. Okay. The piece that we are missing from this equation is the database. Okay, everybody realizes that we still haven't done that. So instead of database, we'll be using some in-memory data structures. Okay, just store your data in memory. And what do I mean by that? If I want to store some information, some data in memory, local storage, something more simpler. Objects, yeah, or an arrays. Just store them in simple arrays. Okay. For now, this will be our data structure. Okay. Just keep this in mind. I will walk you through what exactly I mean if you didn't understand. Okay. All right. So this is the app. So usually the teams are 4 people. We've done 2 front end and 2 back end. That's one option. The second option that I like to tell at this point is if you want, all 4 can work on one thing first, knock it out, and then move into the back end. And the reason I am giving that option is because some people in the team want to learn more of the back end also, but there are only two spots, so I don't want anybody kind of getting left behind. So if that's the case, if you want to follow that strategy, that all four work on one thing, knock it out, and then of course keep switching the coder. All right, somebody who's typing, keep switching. Somebody else comes in and they start typing it. Otherwise, you can do two front end, two back end, knock this out, knock the back end part out, and then connect it. Okay, everybody clear on that? Discuss that as a team once you have time, which strategy you want to follow. Or if there's something else you have in mind, please feel free to do that also. Okay, all right. So this restaurant app, this is seems like it's a very exclusive restaurant. It only has 5 tables. Okay. All right. And I'm going to select this link out. I don't have any issues slacking this out. You guys can look at it also. Front end, of course, looks like Bootstrap. Simple Bootstrap shouldn't be that difficult. Um, Now, looks like there are how many pages? Let's look at how many pages there are. So this is the first page, and I click on View Tables. You see on the top, the link changes to /tables. So that tells me that's one page. I have a page called tables. Okay. And then when I click home, it goes back to the main page. All right. So I have a route. You can call it slash or you can slash homepage. Doesn't matter, whatever name you want to keep it. Okay. So 2 right now. And then the third is if you go to reservation. Okay. The page shows up as reserve. So that tells me that you have 3 pages to create. Okay. Let's go back to the home page and see. Everybody clear on that? Again, I will select this out, take a look at it, and maybe if I miss something. But to me, it looks like I have to create 3 pages. And what does these pages translate to in Express? Routes. Excellent. So I have to basically create 3 HTML routes. Everybody understand the lingo now? Okay. So that's my first thing that I can find out by looking at this app. Okay. Now let's go into our view tables, and looks like there is a form that we can fill out. We'll go over that. So when I go into my tables, looks like it goes and pulls all the information from my data store. Okay, it's getting me my current reservations and a waiting list. Okay, so these are 2 tables basically, and it is getting me these 2 information. All right. Let's do the reservation so we can add some stuff and then we can see. All right, let's go to the reserve. Reserve is looks like a form. And then you can fill this form out and let's see what it comes out with. And a unique ID. Let's say 23. Okay. So I put in information. So it looks like my data store requires a name, phone number, email, unique ID. And then when I submit it, I get a successful message back. And then when I go into my view tables, I see it's sorting by an ID. So it might be better to give a email or something as an ID. Okay, that's the first thing. All right. So now looking at this flow, the first page when it loads, so I'm making a call. I'm making an API call, okay, to get my current reservations. All right. So that should be first your API call to get the current reservations. Okay. And then at the bottom, also get the waiting list. And how does the waiting list work? Once it goes above 5, everybody else that you add is going to be added in the waiting list. Okay? So if you keep adding over here, let's say let's give this ID Tom1. Let's go back, view tables, still 3, so reservation are going on. Let's go ahead and add one more. Give it Tom2 so that we can see. So I just need one more reservation. So Tom3. Okay. So now I have 5 reservations. So the 6th one, the next one should go in my waiting list. Give us some number. Okay, and then the message kind of changes. It says, sorry, you're on the wait list. All right, that's the criteria. So your current reservation only takes in 5 people, and then everybody after that goes in your waiting list. Okay, so again, 3 HTML routes. And how many API? I'm calling them, differentiating them. I'm calling these API routes from Express. These and these are kind of same thing, right? If you call slash tables, you're returning some HTML page, but when you call one of these APIs, it's going to return you some data, all right? But from Express, all are routes. But I'm kind of differentiating them. I'm saying these are your HTML routes, and these are your API routes. All right, so I can see current reservations, and then I see a waiting list, and then when I go back to my home page, when I make a reservation, that's also another API call, right? But this time it's a post call. Okay, post data. Okay. All right, so if you look at the bottom, there are 2 links, API table link and API waitlist. So these are basically the APIs that I was talking about. I was saying that you need 2 APIs, one to get the current reservation and one to get the list. If you click at the bottom, this is an API you see on the top. It's API slash tables. It returns you all the information of the first 5 customers. Okay, let's go back. Again, this is just for your reference, so that you can actually code this out. There's the second API. The name is also there. You can use the same name. The second one is called wait list, and it is returning you the data for the people who are on the wait list. Okay. So these are the 2 APIs. The first they are calling slash tables, and then this one is called slash wait list. Okay. And the last one is a post one. Of course, we cannot see the post one because these 2 are gets. All right. The last one, you're posting the data to which data source? This tables part. Okay. So my tables API is getting all this information, right? Customer details, whatever that object is. And then when I post that data, when I insert, it goes and inserts into the same data store. Okay, so I'm basically posting my data to my API called tables, but this time this is the get method, this is a get method, and this is the post method. Okay, all right, you guys see how many APIs we need? Questions? Jill, you look confused. Got it? Okay. All right. So some of the things, the names of the APIs. I don't know if you guys went over this on Saturday, but there are some standards that we follow. If you're making an API, please start with route called slash API and then your API name. All right. And your API names are plural nouns always. Please don't use verbs. All right. By standard, we use plural nouns. So, for example, I'm getting my tables information. So I'm calling my API tables. Okay. Now, if I want to get information, get data for tables, this is what I'm going to call my API. If I want to insert data in my tables data structure, I'm still going to call this tables. If I want to delete anything, I'm still going to call it tables. If I want to update anything, I'm still going to call it tables. What is the differentiating factor is your HTTP method. So you'll have a get, post, delete. We're just working get and post. So, but both of these are going to have the same name, and your body and everything else is going to change. Okay, that's how we follow through when we are writing our APIs. We'll discuss a little bit more, but I want to start with this. Try to follow the standard plural nouns, and then also start your route with slash API so that anybody can see and understand that this is an API. And tables, get tables means it's going to give me an array of a list of some information. All right. If I do a post tables, it means that it's taking an object and it's going and inserting into your data store. Okay. If I do a delete tables, this means I'm deleting something. We'll get to delete and put maybe later in the class when we get into databases. But for now, you have two routes, get and post. Both are named tables. And then get is getting all the information, getting an array list that we saw over here. And post is basically taking the information, taking one of this object in the body and putting it into your data store. Okay, everybody clear on these routes? So kind of follow this strategy: API routes, HTML routes. See how you can separate these two things. I read the article that Kyle posted about the coding one. It's really well written, and they have stressed how you can modify. If you didn't read it, please take some time to read it. They have stressed how you can differentiate and modularize a lot of the coding part. So try to think, kind of differentiate again from Express point of view. There's no difference between this and this. Everybody understands this because you're using the same get ones. All right. But for you, these are different. These are your HTML routes. That's what I like to call them. Okay, and these are returning your web pages. These are your API routes, which are returning JSON. Okay, so take a look at that, how you can differentiate those. Okay, let's go back and see if there's anything else that I missed. And then you guys know the condition for this one. So if there's more than 5, then it goes in the waiting list. Okay. All right. Any questions? Everybody good? Everybody understand the objective? All right. So let me slag this website out and then some of the phase instructions. So let's go back. Nick, can you slack out the README, please, for this one? Yeah. So in the README, you will see it explains details, just what I walked you through. So you're going to create this app, have a front end and a back end. For the first phase, set up your Express.js, make sure all your installations are there. You're able to use Express and start creating your front end also. Okay, front end looks pretty I wouldn't say easy, but seems like you guys, it's simple. Bootstrap, don't have to do anything fancy. The main point of this is that you understand how to use Express and deploy it. We'll be running it localhost. All right, in the end, towards the end of the class, I would like around like after 8:30, maybe like 8:45 ish, people are kind of coming to close that they can deploy this on your Heroku. Okay, that's the ideal case. All right. jQuery to run AJAX calls to get and post. Right? Everybody understand AJAX call, jQuery. This is a part of your front end because you have to create your front end and then call all these routes. Just look at your Star Wars app also. All right. Again, as I was saying, as you complete this phase, I'm going to code also, but please don't wait for me to complete anything. I would really like that you guys go ahead and complete a major chunk, and then if there's any issue, mostly what I would like to see, the issue would be how do you modularize your all these files. That you can look up and see how I am doing it. Kind of separating these things out versus your API routes, your views, your HTML pages, and all that stuff. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with your first phase. Um, Look into completing the basic Express.js and starting your UI, the front end. All right. Any questions? All right. Kellen, you can join. You can join Reggie, Aaron, and Ali.
Yeah, I was just looking at that why did I get set up and I was looking at this as well. It's literally the same thing. Or our tables, or yeah, yeah, so this is like our tables route. And then we get below that is going to be our reserve route. And below that is going to be our API route. So it's API slash API slash and then let's scroll down here. And then let's go through those arrays. That's a lot of things. Do you want to make this big? I mean, I was looking at it's really easy. If you do, then maybe we should go back to like week 2, week 3, or week 1. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Um, font awesome on the icons already. I mean, if you want to, you want to send it over. Yeah, it's gonna be like fa fire or something like that. Fa fire. It's like someone that's stuttering. Yeah, someone that's stuttering doesn't say fire. Okay. Yeah, did you know kind of what we're supposed to do? Yeah, there's like it's also it's easier to spell to get live all the time. It's like literally happening. Okay, so there's that. So the other one, do we not have we're trying to figure out. So like this, I mean, if someone wanted to start on this, it's like it's literally I just copy and paste this, which I'm working on. Like it's literally that, and then this is like a card body. So it's like literally adding a card body for a current reservation, and like another card body for a witness, and then that's basically it. And it's just sending everything. So if you guys want to start working on, I guess I do Star Wars one. Because literally we're going to set up our like the Star Wars character page. It's just going to be empty until the final. Yeah, there's like 6 or something. Awesome. I mean, that's yeah, that's already halfway done. Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I was wondering as well to start.
And then I'll just send. Yeah. Yeah. If I were like in the surgery, I'll send.
I would probably send it to you. Yeah, we have to deploy it to GitHub before we deploy it to like we did last time. But I'm just looking at that. That's a fucking mess. I just remember it last time because it was. It might be better this time because we kind of have a better idea, but like reading through all the documentation and it being like a class of just right out the things. Yeah, that's probably try to get to it. Try to break it into 6 to 7
Okay, so it is gonna be on GitHub.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think you have another idea. In order to yeah. So, I have one.
I guess we start creating the server now.
So yeah, if you guys want to start. Okay. But how do you guys want to do that? So like, I just want to see like how do you write in order to yeah. So like it's literally gonna be the same. So like we're gonna have our git for the whole stage. We're gonna have slash
I did.
So if you guys are writing your HTML and your JavaScript separately, please look at this point over here. The easiest way is to keep your HTML and JavaScript in the same file. But if you are separating out, their Express requires extra, just like a one line. I would recommend try to Google that and try to find out. So this issue will come if you have your HTML separate and your JavaScript, your jQuery code in a separate file. If you have your one HTML file and at the bottom you have your script tag and all your JavaScript is there, then you won't face any issue. But if you have both of them separate, then there's just literally like one line of code. But I would recommend googling that and try to find out how to include JavaScript files in Express. That's all you need to search for. Okay. But if you have JavaScript in your HTML, then you don't have to worry about that. Yes.
Okay,
This has this.
just, that's,
Inside
I'm not
here, so-
understanding that, cause the, like, you know, cause up until now, right, we've been taught to put the JavaScript in a separate file,
Right.
right, but then you're just saying on the client side, so
Yes.
this is like after it's all on the server, right, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, like after,
Put it in the HTML file,
Like
right?
this,
Putting it in- So you're going to make your HTML file, right?
Yeah.
For these routes,
yeah,
and these routes are tables, and you have a jumbotron and everything, right?
yeah.
Do you need JavaScript in this HTML? You need it. Why? Because you're going to make an AJAX call to get this data, right?
Okay.
So and that AJAX call goes in your JavaScript or jQuery code.
Yeah, so you,
Okay.
so usually you keep it separate, but.
Usually you keep it separate, and if you're following, no, keep it separate. I would recommend. I was warning that if you're keeping it separate, then Express you need an extra line. You need to define that file on your Express side. Then you need to tell Express that there's a JavaScript file that is separate. That's like one line of code.
Yeah.
So if you don't do it, then you'll run into issues rendering that page. But I would recommend Google that, and I would say yes, keep it separate. It's just one line, and you can still do it. Give it a try.
Okay, Matt. So like, just when you say the HTML in the client side code,
Yes.
you just made that HTML is shown in the browser, that's all you mean by that?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the HTML.
It's not like, oh, after this is all on the server, then that's what the client side code part just threw me off.
Right. So I see what you're confusing, but remember all of this, your HTML, where are they going to be? They are still going to be on your server,
Right.
right? So you'll have a page called tables and page called reserve, right? Table and reserve, right? These, what is it? This is an HTML file, right? This is your front end code, and not necessarily that this is going to have just HTML. It's going to have CSS also, right? It is also going to have your JavaScript code. Okay, but all of this resides on your server. Now, if you are following the strategy, you define your HTML, and below you have your script tag, right? You have your JavaScript in the same file, in the same tables file, and then you have CSS also with your styles tag and everything, right? In just one HTML file, then you don't have to do anything. Everything will work as you have learned with Express. Okay, but if you go ahead and you take this out and you create a JS file separately,
Right.
okay, JS file separately and CSS file separately, okay, then you need to add a line on Express telling this information.
What's
Okay,
the preferred way to do it?
I would like it separately.
Oh,
Yeah, because it kind of grows bigger. Right now, if it's complicated, just keep it in one file. I don't, it's fine. But I'm saying when you are coding, you will always see these will be separate. They will never be same.
so what's the one line of code if we have to just look that up?
So that's why I'm saying just Google and try to find that out. You'll get that. It's not super. It's just like one line.
So we need our CSS in there too then, right?
Well, if you're using Bootstrap, you don't need CSS at all.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So you just need your jQuery. You need your jQuery and JavaScript and your Bootstrap. Those three things.
Alright, so where you,
So that should bring
so you have like your Yeah, but yeah, that's all the front end that we have to do is what Aaron's doing right now.
Yeah, it's
so
limited
it's
this
like
too, and then we can all work on the back end stuff together, I guess. If you guys wanna, like, one of you guys wanna start looking up the method or how,
What
or-
names you said?
yeah,
Okay, sure.
and then Reggie, what do you
Yeah, the configure the express server to know what jobs.
You know what? You should.
But I guess my label that's the reason it's pretty much gonna be what it is, yeah, API table, API table links and API waitlist.
Happy.
It's just like the whole.
What was your name?
Yeah, well, you can't spell it. That's right. That's right. It's PRO.
That's why not make it.
I mean, friends. But I put more on release, so it'd be helpful.
It's like, that too has zeros in it.
Both habits. Alright, I mean, can I add first?
I'm
sorry! I'll give you access.
Otherwise,
Run wild with everything.
I've done it. You can't stop. Even if it's not used, I have it.
Yeah, that's, he said it was only one line.
We're gonna find out the name of the restaurant, rest of the.
He's just taking control with his Scottish flair.
That's Scottish Blair.
Program in.
Scottish Blair Blair.
I mean, you're not
It's a very
wrong.
Scottish name. That
It
program.
really is.
That's French.
I'm glad you guys got that.
It's all hiding. Come on now.
That was good.
Both on Skype. This one is 2300. Like the question the person asked was, just why can't I get to my JavaScript files from
Oh, you're
the
saying someone wants to get
JS?
They both restaurant has like
Sorry.
Yeah.
You can't.
Alright, is this right? So you're
What
not
is it?
gonna just-
Exactly. They wanna come.
Yes.
That's not Skype. Okay.
There's one that I do all the time.
So he's
I don't know if that was real.
ID is supposed to be a
Oh, yeah.
That's a good question. ID is
Whatever you guys, you're not storing in our database right now, so you're storing in that's the standard.
So that's the
That's just gonna be super important line. What do we have to, is that it?
Yeah.
We don't have to put anything else in there?
Like we would have to put,
Slash whatever our file name is.
Folder name actually.
So
like we would have to.
So it's it's the directory.
I would recommend put your stuff in a folder.
So directory name plus.
So what's start with your directory structure. What do you guys have? Then I can guide you more. But overall, how does your directory structure look like once you have your folder?
Hopefully that's the right one.
Yeah, because we're gonna have external jobs for files. Express stuff, just like
Okay. Well, yeah, I know some people.
You know some people that obviously figure out names and connections. We don't know about
Okay, so we got basically.
Fire.
You guys heard about that, right?
No.
That's all the fake. You haven't heard of Fake Fire Festival? The whole festival that someone put on, and it wasn't actually a festival. Daniel, you've heard of that?
Is that the fire?
Fire festival.
Yeah, they did it. Yeah.
They had people pay like hundreds, some people hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to this private island or like private venue, and there was like it was a scam, and they got like pieces of bread when they were supposed to have like gourmet meals, and they got pieces of bread and like cheese.
People go to jail.
Oh, they're in jail for sure. Yeah, they have like the Netflix and both.
Yeah,
Netflix
Netflix
and
has
Hulu documentaries about it. It's pretty interesting. Just because how you like can influence people to do stupid shit just because of social media. Like everyone just believes everything that they see on that. Yeah, it's crazy. And like some of the people that were doing it were like, I feel terrible because they're like they're like the marketers and they're like doing all this crazy stuff to have people like just be robbed. I mean, it is, dude. Or it's just ignorance.
Using it in a dumb way, yeah.
But then they got caught, so.
I mean, you knew they were gonna get caught. I mean, come on, man.
Only working for a short period.
Yeah, exactly. They were partying like rock stars, and then now they're in jail. Just who knows? So ours is a fire restaurant. Perfect. Nice and fit. So that's. So these two areas.
Yeah. That's where you see all the tables and the people that have reservations and
Oh shit. Okay, so this is supposed to be this. Is
and then there's a wait list on it.
no, it's probably there.
Yeah, sorry. I have closed.
Yeah.
Do I have not ready?
But I don't know if
Yeah,
that was
you
just
have
something
to-
that we have to do, or if that was just for, as he said, it was just like.
So it probably has to show like.
So, whatever, I'm taking my taxes.
That's
So,
that's
what
Oh wait,
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing that.
yeah, that's something that we can add in. Okay, so the basic things
Instead of like
except
adding-
not input.
Can I do guys finish this?
Do the. I thought you said.
You guys come by the place where they have the.
I want to go today, but it's not working.
Oh, oops.
Yeah. What? I said you were clicking around.
So this.
I'm not witnessing this. You said you clicked. On page.
Yeah.
How are we gonna open? We can't even do that.
Hey man, I barely had anything ready. I just wanted you, I wanted you to cover your hands.
Well,
You know, I wanted to do it the right way.
where are you?
some of that, yeah, it's consistent. The concept. Yeah. Which page are you working on?
Then go from there. So you're doing
Cannot come out of something weird.
I guess just make sure we do all the first, like installing first. Just so we can
Yeah.
get it.
Well, okay, but then,
And then creating because if you're gonna do it.
yeah, but, so we're uploading it to GitHub, that's, right? So each person is uploading the file.
I guess that's kind of the
What is it?
Right, that's why I'm saying, am I supposed to send you my code
Should
when
we be
it's done?
doing like the final draft and be pushing it to GitHub, or should we be pushing like using the like our own personal branches kind of thing and pushing to the
No,
master?
just create one branch, one same master. Everybody just push it to master.
Okay, so,
Don't worry about it.
well, yeah, so like, if I'm working on one file and he's working on another file, but then
Yeah.
I'll just send him my code when it's done, and he'll just put it all in the folder.
Oh,
and-
yeah. Whatever
Do it
is
that way.
easy.
Okay,
What-
we can do it
Whatever
that way
is
too, but you're
easy.
saying that we can all just push it to the master.
Yeah,
Because
whatever
it
is
Okay,
easy.
yeah, well,
It shouldn't be
that's,
Right.
as much of an issue.
Yeah, don't make it complicated. Whatever is easy, you want to send the file, add it. Yeah, don't run into any Git issues. That's what I mean.
Yeah, because I mean, we can always like if we don't want to run into that stuff, we can usually just do like Slack. I can Slack you the like the entire text, and you can just create a new file, or I can send you the whole file. Whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
So I'm doing
Nice.
this one on the hard side, someone wants done,
Codemaster, you follow his name.
I would even recommend, if you want, keep the Git part to the last, like code everything locally, make sure it is working, and then worry about uploading it to Git. Because the only reason you need Git is if you are deploying to Heroku, which is ideal, but the first part is get the code ready, and then then push it to GitHub, then work on the Heroku part. First, get this working locally.
So if I'm still, so then, but then I still need to install the Express and
Yeah.
everything, and I'm just gonna
Install path.
I think it's probably going to be the other way around. If you're running the server side and I'm running the front end-ish side, I'm going to probably send it to you first.
Create a terminal.
I mean, it depends. It depends on what you want.
It's like, it's just, it's pretty quick, so it's just like.
Yeah, dude, I basically have it.
The vertical terminal, you're able to use that.
Yeah, it's just Jumbotron, and a couple buttons and then a couple card inputs and card bodies.
It did in the last time.
But what we are going to need is
You can have
some of the JavaScript.
you can call it table head.
The server.
That's one of the hardest
So I mean, that's basically going to be the same thing. So instead of, oh no, I'm still going to leave it as an add button. So the add button.
Oh, there's somebody here.
What's
He's like,
He's doing it by himself.
Yeah.
It feels like self-line.
And it's literally going to be the same exact. It's going to be name. It's going to be phone number. It's going to be email, and then the last one is other phone number or ID. And then you just do those.
Tables is with the reservation.
Yeah, let me
Like when you
finish
type
this
in
real
the
quick.
reservation,
And then we'll start writing
when you
the
hit submit, that goes into the table.
JavaScript that should. But I mean, it's basically going to be the same. So if you want to create another file for that,
Like this part
and
is,
then kind of just like
uh,
start writing your thing, and then you can copy paste that.
Oh.
It's going to be the same.
this part is kind of difficult if you wanna like go through this with, cause I just, yeah, so like, cause I'm just doing this first, but I'm just installing the Express and whatever, but, okay, but it's, Danielle,
Mm-hmm.
is path one of those, that I don't need to install?
Path,
Or
you need
I
to.
do need to?
Are you talking about the package called literally Path?
Yeah, because
Yes.
sometimes, you know, when you look it up, even if it's one of those that you're not supposed to install, it's on there, on NPM.js, there's something
Right,
the
that's
same
what
name
I
or
think
something.
Ches and I
That's
were
why
discussing.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the
So-
trick for, you should see
Yeah.
some of the packages that Ches installed, they were from people from China and somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, so I would look up on the NPM website
Yeah.
and see is the proper documentation, it looks
Okay.
reliable, then go ahead.
Alright, so
But if Path, yeah, you
yeah,
have to
it's
install
just-
if you're using Path.
Okay, yeah, so you will be able to figure it out by just reading enough of the.
Yes, you should be.
So like.
If it's in Mandarin or something, then yeah, probably don't install that. I don't know.
No, I just
Would you type in okay, so I
Yeah, oh, you're on the service 6 one?
Yeah, since that was the final.
Oh, was that?
That was
Okay, yeah, I just, mine was like. This one, I'm in this one.
Oh, yeah, that is a survey.
Thank you. So then I'm gonna go on my app.
I think it's right. Right.
So depends.
Does the server.js need to be in that? Just back it out of there.
Does it matter which port we're using?
Remember that line from Star Wars, the env.port?
Right, or is there a default one?
The default is 3000.
Okay.
Or whatever you want. Remember, the range is from 80 to
Right.
88, so anything you want.
Right,
So go back. Works out.
that's only, okay, that's a port, something for.
Oh, because I'm serious about
No, I only have a system I know.
Oh yeah, you can't reset. Yeah, I can't. It's all. It says.
That was an extended ask.
Well, no, I mean it's because the way it's all. None of us can see above like 3 lines. Yeah, so I don't think anybody can. The fact that you can share the terminal software doesn't. I have it.
I just, yeah. Okay, so it's up to you. Do we need to do data parsing?
for the reservation.
We don't, right? Oh, well, yeah, we don't, right? Because we're just like displaying all the.
Was going to be our HTML table. How do you?
Okay, yeah, so you have to display certain data in certain parts of the table, so, okay, so you need to do the data parsing.
Yeah, yeah. You can't skip data parsing, Ali. Data parsing is always
So
there.
the first
Yeah,
one.
for this one,
Slash and
for this, right? Oh, somebody wiped out the whole data. That's okay. But this is what we are doing. So for this, it looks like this is the ID or whatever. So a little bit of parsing. It's looks like a card view and then showing
Yeah, so slash tables and then slash.
Yeah. So you get make
Yeah, you just need to put the first over to the card.
So much.
Or the panel, the current notifications panel.
Codemaster!
Alright.
Yeah, nothing. But those were waiting still.
Oh, so you're trying to render? No, no.
That's what I was thinking. That's basically
Yes, so it's gonna be.
so like the adding.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's.
Then the data, so the data is gonna be what is entered into the form. So we don't know, we don't know.
That's why people get talking about the new table.
Oh, for demo?
Yeah, so. So you can only have 5 reservations, right?
I'm trying to look at the server 6 and reference here.
So you're at the point where you're checking to see, okay, if there's 5, then you go to waitlist up to the rest. Yeah, it's answer question
Because I'm looking at the forum. I guess they didn't do a 4-week one.
Oh, yeah. So, they go for the I can love it.
Our buttons
Oh, okay.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
What I was calling.
Yeah, so it's all, your indexes are, backslash, tables and Reggie and I are in the process of writing out jQuery. It's a full through. Brian.
See if they still have
You ready to table objects?
or just display it. Just get it to me. Yeah.
Except for the yeah, I know it's slash API, but I was just wondering what slash. How many we got tables for this?
Oh, I already asked you. That worked. Okay. Yeah.
So, tables.
Short term.
Short term. Oh, that's why. Yeah, you can run it together.
That's okay.
So, question is if we have our like our anchor tag of our two
Because it's in a range.
the index, do we only need the backslash or no?
Well, you don't need the file name because yeah. So yeah. So if you include like the file name. So it'll probably throw 404 because it can't find that because it's looking for a route, not a file. And so the slash, tables, for example, it points to an actual route which matches one of your routes that you have. And then that's when you load its respective.
But this is just the same.
Yeah. So
It's still for the same.
yeah.
So like sorry for this, I mean like so my tables works just fine. But then when I actually try and shoot for home, obviously it gives me this because this is what it has as my home, that's my backslash. But even when I have like
Yeah, but that's what
my
I'm-
even when I have my slash index,
Because we're not gonna have 5 different rows,
it will still give me
have
that
it.
over here and there.
Like in, like the other one.
Okay. So let's open up your server.
There's this data.
So I haven't set that up yet. That's what she said. That's what she said. I'm setting this up along with jQuery, but it still should. Everything else works. All my other, like I said, all my other anchor tags work. It's just this one that's not. It's not working right now.
It's just, it's not quite the same as the.
So start out.
So notice the URL.
Yeah.
Click on make reservation. So see with just the slash, it's assuming it's at C slash.
Oh,
So it's going back
So
to
do I have to go all the way into my like slash
And then there's a get row.
So in this case, yes. But
until we do
yeah.
the server
So
side?
and that's the whole idea for Express is that instead of writing out a huge long URL, for example, you just do slash tables. And it would start at the root, which would be, myapp.com slash, and then, tables or, whatever.
So basically only a couple of them will work as of now until we actually set up server side?
Yeah, so what I would,
Yeah.
so what I would do for your buttons there, for your new track, you'll just do the, whatever the route is going to be. So slash, tables or slash reserve. And that way Espresso will come in and fill in the blanks. Because right now this is just these are just static files being served, off your laptop. And so Express does the basic serving for you. It serves out these files based on the URL as opposed to actually looking for the file.
It's just weird that someone is like yours and responsible company.
Yeah, it is a bit strange. Unless you have an XML through your PC drive, which I doubt.
Yeah, I don't have
Yeah. So, yeah, it should. We're looking at it right when we first started just using it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, can I have 1 minute? I just want to introduce Brent. He's our new SSM. He's taking over from
Hey
Jason.
guys, hey, sorry to interrupt. I know you guys are right in the middle of something. We just had a launch next door, and I just wanted to catch you guys before getting out of the building. But just wanted to say hi to you guys. I've had a chance to talk to a few of you guys individually, but I'm the new SSM replacing Jason. So if any of you guys have interacted with Jason, he's just moving into a new role. And I am working on 3 weeks in position, trying to get assimilated to the new position here. But just wanted to say hi to you guys. I know, as I've been well versed on the Gilbert facility, I know that you guys have had to be very flexible with how things have gone in the classroom. Obviously, you guys have had a new space, monitors, things like that. So I just want to say I really appreciate not only you guys in terms of what you've had to deal with with the classroom and the monitors. The city of Gilbert and U of A has assured us that this is going to be done within the week. We'll all hold our breaths for that and see what happens. But I promise you guys I'm watching closely with it. I was here this afternoon when we were encountering some other challenges in some of the other classrooms, and know that this is a priority. And we certainly want to make sure that from an engagement standpoint, you guys have the best possible classroom experience. So just thank you guys for where you've been and where you're at today, and hopefully we can get this thing resolved and get you guys back to a little more cohesive classroom space with some nice equipment in here. So with that being said, I put a few messages out, but I'll continue to do that in your Slack channel. If you guys want to reach out and connect with me one-on-one, I'm happy to do that. In fact, I welcome that. So please do so. I'll send another link out to you guys and another message just with a refresher, my Calendly link, email. Like I said, I'm in your Slack channel as well. So any way you guys want to get a hold of me and talk, give me feedback, I'm happy to do it. So as you guys already know, even potentially with Jason, as I told the other class, I have all 4 campuses. So I'm here in Gilbert, I have Chandler, I have downtown, I have Tucson, and I live in Anthem. So, so I will make the rounds, and you guys will see more of me on campus. I'm trying to put together a nice calendar to where I can consistently get to all 4 of the campuses. But again, the best way to get a hold of me is through Slack and through Calendly, and I'm happy to set up those one-on-one appointments with you guys. So let me know. Let me know what I can do to assist. I know you guys are in great hands with the team that you have here, and just wanted to say hello and not waste this opportunity to come by and see you guys. So, yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, so my question was that, so you know how the Star Wars one, right, we had all this data here, and then so we had all these different routes, right? But then for this one, we're not having that many different routes, right? So it's not gonna be quite the same.
So go back to the Star Wars.
Yeah.
So These are just character elements. They're not.
Right, but then, but just when you would say, dress bar slash Yoda, and
Yeah.
then a new page pops up, you know,
Yeah, so if we scroll down here, so what you're talking about, holding characters, so that serves as well. So for the restaurant, these guys, right, because we only have tables reserved and whatever we, trying to make sure, so we don't really need a very.
This works.
Yeah.
It's what it needs. Alright.
Yeah, because for the Star Wars one, you could be any character.
Yeah.
And for this, it's only 5 tables.
They were in the middle and when I thought
And reserve tables.
Yeah. So then just as far as the data, that's what I'm saying, so because the data is entered by the user. So like, I mean, I should say, I should like get the value of what the user enters and then trade data.
Yeah, so that's going to be like, for the work field, name, phone number, email, the unique item. So that's what you're going to save into your table display, right? So it'll look similar to the character today, but instead, you're going to have the first phone number, email, and their unique item. So that is going to store these user information here, and when you go to tables, that's where you'll render, your table list, and then you're waiting for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing with the stars is, you'll be adding to the characters collection in a similar fashion. So, the way we would create a character, we fill out a form, we hit submit, and then we take that, off JSON object, right? And we essentially just push it into a character. So you'll be doing something very similar with it, except you'll have two forms. So if your table list has reached the maximum file, then you have to push that to. So there's an extra piece of logic in there. So that's basically. Make sense?
It's a string.
Sorry, not even fighting. Only that I won the difference. You played a game of dibs.
My comments now.
I want to eat now.
All the slam, I can't really take it out. I don't know how awesome you are. Driving these codes over here, man. Driving up a wall. I know. How do you expect to be employed if you just destroy everything and figure something else?
Yeah, I would fail.
When you say it works, what does that mean? When it works, what is the functionality that you qualify as? Works for me, it works. Well,
Works and not broken.
Yeah, it's nah, man.
Yeah, we don't like it in there.
Don't do whatever you want to do. So,
Is that anything for 2,000?
But this one, well, look, it pulls the whole thing. Look, it's just showing. Oh, that's a name. Yeah, so it's just telling you to show the stats.
So this is the folder structure that I'm following. I have a public folder, and I'm going to put all my HTML and my JavaScript in this folder. And then on the root folder, I have a server.js. Public, you will see by standard, people put all the code that is going to be visible on your browser, which is publicly available. So all your HTML, your front-end JavaScript, CSS, all go over here.
Right, so as far as the data,
Yeah, so that's
yes, yes, so, but like, so in this, I wanna open this up, right, this on that one, before entering the info into the form, just like this one, so, yeah.
It's slash tables. That's what it's what it's.
That's the jiggle, right? There you go.
Right, so in Star Wars, one add one Star Wars characters, right?
That's the same link I
This
sent.
one, we're gonna add characters, right? But yeah, so it's like, so.
I just copied the link.
So then.
And the card shows what like that.
So.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so.
I do just search for block.
The old school. Yeah, I didn't see that.
Right, so we're making array resolutions, and we're just gonna have a B for this here. Right, have a B and C.
Just for theirs, this is gonna be, like, we're gonna pull it through using our jQuery zones, but they're going to store it. So, they can store it to the pulled in that array or was moved in that array. Whatever that entry is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm doing like reservations.
I was gonna ask you guys how you You know what's funny? Because I'm gonna get some free diamonds with my daughter. Which we can do that. We can do that. I mean, because then have to go for like.
So,
Yeah, so it'd be like,
are you guys already doing this?
we're just working on, the, I guess, part of, like part of the event listening, so like,
Yeah, this is all I have so far. I just have
Wolverine's out here. Already gets fucked. Who's got to go? You're Wolverine. You look like Wolverine. You have like it's all perfect and like. Look at it. It's like just hair on his hair.
just like they
Hair
do.
on his face. I'm gonna write this one down. Hair on his face. Sounds great.
And then once we
Who
go.
is this man?
Yeah.
It's actually really nice. I don't like it.
thanks.
Hair on his face.
Yes, so.
It's not like, oh, geez,
That one is all us basically.
the hair goes.
But like,
Yeah.
It is. Like, I'm looking at this.
Yeah,
so it's gonna be
nice.
Oh, no, no, when I have to say, so what's This is me. This is who I am. That's where you're supposed to be, in the cold. Just let it grow. Come out. Alright, let's get back to master program. It's very off topic. Sorry. I'm on it. I'm on it. First of all, this is not my fault.
Yeah, that's what this is.
You're defining.
Yeah.
You're not even part of the turnaround code. Chop, chop, chop.
So the post request, right? So then we don't have, like this example, post request was /API/characters and Star Wars one, right? So then for this one, which is the post request is for tables, so then just put post API / the reservations, reservations that we want to show. So we're not gonna need a route that has slash tables. Because,
Yes,
yes, because it's just a post request. So, yes, okay, but because we have tables in there already. Yeah, we have the tables at HTML. I'm just,
so that's the your HTML. So, are you talking about HTML or the API?
Do this every time, and they're like, yeah, I do.
This is where
So, are you sending your HTML back or are you sending some data?
Right, we're sending some, because we want it to be displayed, right? Sorry.
Yes, yes, but you want your
Tables web page also be displayed, right? You want this also. When I go to tables, this should show up. First of all, this page.
Right.
So that's your HTML route.
Yeah. So is that a different request? That's like another get request that's separate? That's
Oh no, that's the same one.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
right.
instead
There's
of,
a tables
so-
get request. And then
right,
there's a
so if
tables
you're-
post request. That's
Right,
not
slash
confusing at all.
tables will give you HTML, slash API slash tables will give you the data. So there are two different routes. One is slash tables and one is slash API slash
Right.
tables.
So the slash reserve route,
Will
that's,
give you this page. Will give me this
that's
page.
get.
This is a get. From the
Yeah.
HTML, this is a get.
So we actually need 4 API routes. I mean, yeah. No, just we need one HTML.
So you need three HTML routes. Yeah.
And 3 API routes.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And-
No, you're right. Yeah,
and-
that's what you need. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. Alright, so I'm gonna keep my HTML routes together, so that.
Reservations is where, when you make the, that's what your form is doing, right? That's how it displays on the paper. It's all going up, so doesn't that go to the, that object. So you do the array.
This is the HTML.
These are HTML. These are
All
API.
three of these are HTML.
I mean, from Express, when you write the code, there's no differentiation. But for your understanding, when you do this, you're sending HTML back.
Okay, I understand, but if you're HTML, that's basic graph that sends the user receive.
So I
Is that
that's what it looks like, okay? Sorry. I didn't really-
That's gonna be one get.
You've never heard that term?
So the one that displays all the characters. This one just, I know the ones that have API are the API of sim. So I'm doing my own abstract, yeah. Yeah, the tables one.
Almost 100% sure.
Yes,
So path is part of
On the prettier.
Node.js. You don't have to install it. I was just checking.
Oh,
it. Did you do it? Just delete the node module.
But see, because when you look it up, it says, it wasn't in Chinese, it just.
It was there? That's fine.
Yeah,
It was there, see?
wasn't what Chinese.
Node.js path not here. This is an exact.
Oh, so you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it already exists. There wasn't this.
Okay, it's like.
Yeah, somebody,
did it, but
Okay.
it
Just
says
in
on the
case
readme.
It wasn't already on your.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, looks like it's already there.
Yeah.
Yes,
So scanning video, right?
will we need to, we won't need to display this one. We need to display that. On the page, right, the example page. What is it?
Oh, like this one here? No, that's in GitLab, yeah. What are you looking for?
Just bringing up the routes.
So it's 8:05. If you guys want to take a break for 15 minutes, please do so. I've coded the home page out. All right. Right now it looks simple. I'm going to move the routes in a separate file, but for now, this is how it should be looking like. Simple, it just loads my home page. That's all it does. And I have my home HTML in my public folder. That's my home HTML. All of these are empty. And then I run this server. And then my localhost 8080 just shows up this page. None of these work, but just my home page that is completed.
Did you have that on?
What? No, I don't have
Copy and pasted.
Yeah, I copy the HTML files. I don't bother writing. Yeah. These things I write because this is my forte more, but the HTML I don't bother.
Okay, yeah, that's what, did you, yeah, the server page, was that all on yours?
This thing I looked at this method. Well, this is an easy method. Get and post right.
Yeah,
Yeah, once you start using it a lot, this kind of will be like, you don't have to memorize it, it will come to you. Oh yeah, it's, one is the route, one is the callback function. Usually these are the
okay, yeah.
No, freaked out for a minute. I tried to, and I didn't work.
Current reservations. So yeah,
Well, that's, I mean, it doesn't. Just, I have all the three HTML that just shows the.
So it's like,
It's less characters. So that's going to display all of the information. Actually,
Nice. Thanks. That's not my fault. I can do it. Portal. I've never seen a portal. Slightly biased. Mama, you like this really? Oh, I just Mama Russia. You as the baby. Now, cardiac activity on Saturday. Oh yeah. And like I did things where I was like pushing things and then I would grab something back and I was like, oh my god. Yeah.
So that's.
Oh, I don't know if I would do adding it and then it's like
But then,
adding
like,
it.
if it goes over 5, that goes into.
Don't do it!
So this is going to display
Yeah,
the
it's fine.
variations.
I'm just worried about everything.
So then,
Yeah. So I'm for one.
yeah, so then we want to get the leading ones, so we want
Yeah, that's all I
to go. So we need to go through that.
Virus.
doubt.
I think
That was
Okay, so for your reference, I've added one HTML route and one API route. All right, this should give you, if you're stuck over here, then this should give you a good start. I've coded out one HTML and one API route. So my HTML gives me my home page, and the first API route tables gives me all the data that is over here. Right now I've just hard coded the tables array and put in just one object. Okay. Now all of this code is kind of, this is in one file. Next step, what I will try to do is I'm going to separate these out in different files and then make sure these are still working before I continue on. But it gives you example for one HTML route and one API route. Okay. And then I can test these. If I go to my localhost 8080, it gives me my home page. If I go to localhost 8080/API/tables, it gives me this data, right? Because that's the route I have over here, /API/tables.
What do you mean by to do, move it out?
So this is the file is getting crowded. I was saying,
Oh,
right,
yeah,
kind of separate these. So I'm going to now create different folders and move it out. But this is the code just for you guys' reference.
Okay.
That's how you do the API and that's how you do the HTML.
Okay, so there's a new code for storing new reservation. Just look at what you yeah, so we did the neighbors file, so that's not
It's staffed by Chris Scott. Nothing but the time is in Wow, you guys wanted to what is it? Mike Myers. Okay, I want to go back to the that's what I want to do. Go down to the script and we'll see what we've done.
so that's the first data to check. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. But that's not the post data to tables route, right?
There was something you had on there, value
It
trail.
says index and
I don't want to. You have it right there. Why can't you just show me? This is what code is about. You share it. I try to get some line. I don't know. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. Well,
There's errors in the all the time. Big where you can't even on the one side, yeah. The only thing I see is that you're using .ajax.
So I just moved my array into a different file. That's all I did. And I'm exporting this in my server.js. Now I'm kind of separating everything out. And I linked it to my server.js.
Yeah, I guess I honestly don't know where. Yeah, where we're at with because I feel like we have most of that with you now. Like Reggie and I finished the all 3 pages of copy, so it's just the actual like yeah, the button is like the photos where things are depends on the page I don't know if Jenny, are we showing up just like in class, correct?
Yes, yes.
I don't like to see you guys all. Hand over again. Truthfully, this right here. It's over like right there. What are you looking at? The four loop? So like the API. So yeah, it's gonna be which one? Oh, okay. So it's gonna be basically the same as the one for. That's what I
But then,
I don't know.
but then instead of if it's more
So that's gonna go. We put in a if statement. Oh, right. Yeah. Totally right.
So I also separated my HTML route. If that's what you guys are doing, I had my HTML route over here, app.get. I put it in a different file. I created a routes folder. I created a file, and then I put my HTML route inside it and exported that route. Okay. Now since I'm exporting it as a function, um, I'm just calling that, and all my routes will be called. So that's how I'm kind of separating these things out. It's the same thing. If you guys are modularizing, this is how you would do it. You would create a separate, or you can just keep it in the same file.
I will like it better when I'm just part of a group project and I'm just doing one file and everyone is something.
Yeah, and this is the good way to do it.
Then you don't have to break it up yourself.
Right.
Send your one file.
Yeah, you So yeah, it's gonna go forward. Yeah, and then after Win. I followed your. Okay, cool. Oh, yeah. Well, that's how they have the request operators up there. I think that's.
But then it'll be more than one. It'll be more than one request, so then.
Did you change Because I like colors. They calm me.
But what if it, what if it's the request because after
Number one. Because if you're not basically. Okay, right.
You can see how my server.js kind of reduced to just two files. Kind of exported my HTML out. I exported my API routes out. Now I'm going to just write these two files and keep filling. Right now I have slash. I can create a slash table, then slash reserve. But my server.js kind of stays the same. Okay, no changes over here. There's no data. It doesn't know. It doesn't concern about the data. My data is required for my API routes. So if you go over here, I've exported the tables array out. So my tables array is over here. Exports it. In my API routes, I'm using calling these tables, required tables, and just sending that tables back. All right. Initially, I had all of this in server.js, right? I showed you guys individual routes, and then once I have this down and it is working, I kind of separated them out so that for future routes, I just keep filling those files now. Okay, this is how you start your project, do it, and then kind of start modularizing, or we call it refactoring. Okay, so I'm going to keep adding some more routes to it. And see how far I get to completing this app. I can actually deploy Heroku right now also because my basic function, not the complete functionality is not done, but some part is done. That I can go to my web page and I can see my home page and my API is also working. So if you want, at this point, I can go ahead and deploy this to Heroku also, and then I can keep pushing my changes and Heroku will automatically get updated. Okay, maybe that's what I will do maybe next. That I will try to see if I can deploy this to Heroku.
So, yeah.
I am happy, so thank you. Say it again.
Well,
Package stuff, I think it's I can't still rest. You should have your command script on. So you need a microservice.
No, I haven't tried it yet.
And then your script.
Oh, yeah,
you
I have
need to
to
say
start the server.
Yeah, start the server.
your main file with your party server, that's going to be a run file, right? When it asks you for your.js, and then your script is going to ask when you're going to run more. So your.js server or this is the command we're using to run check
Oh, yeah,
our
because you don't have.
this file, right?
Yeah, so you have to
Look at the packages and it will find the script and then it will run it. If you don't put it, it
Okay.
doesn't know what to do with it. Yeah, exactly.
That's okay, because like we have the. Not that big installation.
And those are so and those. So which one worked?
The first one on page.
But there's the so scroll down. So this is where so take text right there. I'm just putting it just on the yeah.
Still way too much time.
It's not
Is that, oh yeah, is this supposed to say slash tables?
I'm not trying to understand what.
I think so.
Okay,
You can
you
try
guys
that.
get the idea. I mean, it's the same code.
Is that what he's saying?
write it down. I just that's easy to just write it in one file. I would start with that. That's how I started was. I put everything in one file. Once that was working, then I can respond to things.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. I think you're right. Because this is hashtag add, so I think it is just we put like slash whatever your file name is.
Yeah, yeah. Only in the route.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Especially when you're working with people, it's like, I want to make sure I give you guys enough information or whatever. I'm sure you guys know, but.
I'm going to do it the hard way.
I want to watch it.
So before I deploy, I need to create my package and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
Okay. So is that supposed try to take that off and see if it's just typing tables. See,
so I just created my package.json before I deploy to Heroku. It's the same that we have done, but you guys should recognize line number 12 now. All right. Remember, I was saying we'll come back to it. So line number 12, node server.js. This is the command that starts your file. All right. So once you deploy, Heroku is going to look for this, and this is what it is going to execute. By default, if you saw me creating the package JSON, you don't have to do just give the name description. Automatically, it adds these things. But I just wanted to point it out. Line number 12. Now it should make sense to you guys that what is this doing. This is actually starting. This is your starting file main, and then what it is going to do is going to execute this script, right? And that will kick off a server on Heroku. That's what this does.
so go back to the terminal when it's open, and then go back to the DevOps when you're open. So not. Wait, so go to reserve, go to slash reserve and see if these work, because that's what it is.
So I'm going to go ahead and put it on my GitHub.
It says right here, what's a command?
So open up give back.
So that one works. So that one works because we changed it. So I messed up. I put in the dot at the end. So you have to go real quick. So just inside of those. So go inside the note.
So you
Instead of this, it should just
create apps where the location How can I go back from that? Well, probably just wait until before you actually get
So that was a whole
Git init.
Because like, it was working for me when I had that HTML because each of them has a name, so it doesn't have to say that. It's not like right there, and it still works. Yeah, but when we actually have to run it through the server, that's what it's going to pull up because that's what you have to do. So inside the URL, that's what it's going to have. You get a change the tables from but then at least that's all working.
This might have to change though, because I know that every time you do it does nothing.
Yeah, that should be. This is supposed to be. Sorry, this is supposed to be. And then yeah, and then make sure it's yeah, it's reserved.
Okay. So my Git repo is created. All my stuff is there.
Cool. All right, so we can now rerun the server.
Let's look at some of the Heroku documentation. Okay.
So that works.
That's done. Heroku login.
Yeah, so it's really not that important. Okay, so now let's try. You have those. I mean, I remember how to do it. So you do, yeah. So here.
Okay, I'm logged into Heroku. Let's see. Prepare the app. I have this. Create an app on Heroku. Okay, Heroku create. Okay, so looks like I created an app. Let's go back here. Git push Heroku master. Git push Heroku master.
So for the Star Wars one,
Okay. So I completed the Heroku master. Let's see. The application now is deploy. Ensure that at least one instance is up and running. Okay. Let's go back and run this. Looks like it is running. Next, visit the URL Heroku open. Heroku open. Oh. Let's look at our logs. Heroku logs. Heroku logs. App crashed. Get path slash. Node server. Okay. Cannot find module dot slash hot restaurant routes HTML routes. Okay. So looks like there's an issue with my require files, and this is in HTML routes. So I'm going to remove.
No, like this, for the post request, what I was just saying, was it was like, do you have that yet? And I was like, we just have like what you did,
So it should be maybe dot slash routes.
yeah, that's what I'm not so we go on to the site.
Git push Roku master. Git push Roku master.
So this is basically what it posted. So this is when I posted what this is what it got when I posted. Yeah, what? No, I just did this. Like I mean, it is all one, yeah, but I really just did it right now.
So, this is that, it doesn't really happen. We have the server running and we have the 3 pages, so we start doing
Okay, there we go. I just had my routes incorrect.
So let's assume you make an index. So you can slow down, go back. So we're posting serial. So what that requires is
Okay.
We're essentially creating a new character based on
So I was able to successfully deploy on Heroku. I just followed the documentation.
request dot body is essentially the body of the node application. So the character name, blah blah blah. So all wrapped in this object. And so here, new character wrapping. So this is basically just changing the route name to make sure that it complies with so basically anyways, make sure that it's
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
perfect. And then we're pushing it to
So so this is what I have for that stuff.
Where is it? Why is it not
Well, this is what I have. This is what I have because you were saying. Right, so I have that. Get request. Yeah, the only one that I don't have is the post request, but is this? I think the API also works so far. It's these two. And this is getting all of the reservations. And then that's going to be displayed on the tables page. And then this is the website, and that's also going to be displayed on the tables page. I already had this also, which was what is that? Because that looks familiar also, but this looks to something else.
I'm sorry.
Liverpool won. I'm excited.
so yes, or dot needs to be.
Wait a minute.
What's your last name?
Whoa, we're not having real.
I left it directly slash no reservation right with this. I didn't know, I wasn't sure what
Well,
you
if
were
you're trying to
You look like a Johnson.
so the route just don't have to be slash in this case. So we have a get route for API slash tables, and then we have to have a post route that we're posting data to tables. So essentially, what we're doing here is they're named the same, but we're essentially reusing that same word to do two different things. So we have app.get, which is API slash tables, and then we have app.post API slash tables. Right. And so this, so this would be changed to,
Okay.
so that would be tables, and then you did you create a post?
Okay. Well, no.
I'm wondering.
Okay.
How long does it take to deploy the
On my server, I had.
Oh,
I had API reservations, because that was the name of the site.
That's a great
I was looking at the characters was the data and stuff where I did that.
So the characters in here is not in any way every character.
It doesn't have to do with the array, it's just the name of the.
Yeah, this is just the name of the route. So this could be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, so.
So you can call it reservations get or you can call it reserved, and it doesn't matter. But this I would change because essentially what it's doing resolutions or at least you're returning using this organization. So these should be uniform. So you only need oh, so I see. So you only have one select now. I would create something. Well,
Well, that's what, see, at first I was do that. Oh, okay.
Okay. So what I would do in this case is just only have this one, this keeping it's not in there because so we're already showing reservations here. We don't need to iterate through them. Just like because wait lists and reservations should be combined. So reservations, if we have, but then we go to the sum anything greater than 5 needs to go to the wait list.
Yeah.
So in here, that's not what we introduce. But on the in the post and the table, that's when we check to see if his reservations have 5 tables in there. If it does, then push it to the wait list.
So how are
So it
you?
needs to go inside the post. So this one is not.
I literally just
wanted
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought it's in the post route.
So it's gonna go inside here. So post. Slash reserve.
I think the remember when I did the lyric, I had to change my selection.
This variable is in a new table.
Okay.
Oh, so it made a new app when you.
Oh, yeah, so if you create first manager,
You did both of them.
yeah, if you do,
Okay.
it doesn't, they kind of don't mix. So if you, so I didn't create an app, I just create an app from my command line.
As soon as you
Oh, we don't need that.
We don't.
If you do it from command line, it automatically.
Yeah, see, that's where I was like.
So again, so the character diagram, that was only specifically for us to be able to create So we're not doing this tables. Yeah, so we're only creating the tables and then just getting the whole collection.
I can
That would be information object, so the whole route name, we don't use that.
So I was-
We don't do property.
I just
Instead of
almost-
we don't have a property called. Route names in route table. So we just have,
Show that I changed
the email, the number, so we can send it the rest of the table there. And so, what you need to do is now you have the logic in there. If reservations, already have the 5 tables, then if reservations, if the length of reservations is less than 5, add it to the reservations. If it's greater than, or yeah, if it's greater than 5, then wait. If the length is, if the length is less than 5, else.
Right, but then you don't want to add the whole array to where it's stuck, you just want it's greater than 5.
Well, it doesn't matter.
No, you're right.
Reservations with length, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Because it is intended as a.
Yeah, so, but if it's less than 5, we have the whole thing to reservation.
Oh, no, I think that's
But if it's greater than 5, the ones less than 5 are going to go on the reservation. The ones greater than 5 are going to
So if it's
You read the Marie.
we add the new listing into.
Yeah, I use
So if this logic is not satisfied, so let's say reservations already
Yeah, I
have
like it.
5 tables. So so 5 is less than 5, it's not true. So it's else.
That's so good.
I am not happy.
That is so
Yeah,
good.
but then you're only pushing what's greater than 5.
That was good.
I don't, what do you mean not the whole thing?
Not like all 8 reservations or
No,
whatever.
so like once there's already 5 reservations, everything after that will go into
And I can just write that like that, if reservations dot length is less than 5, then it's 8 reservations.
I was fine with it. You just need to show me a scene of him getting augmented, you know?
reservation stuff.
So if we just hard code something into the
He's running around and making money.
So reservations is an array, right?
Right.
He was like, on your left.
Right,
Then
so.
Where do we have
On your
the
left.
tables? Like,
No, no, you had to go to the other
Okay,
side.
yeah.
what do we
Push
push
inside
inside
the
the
shield and catch it.
So we've already declared it.
New table. I mean, reservation stuff.
Oh, that's here.
I have offensive.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that was just, yeah.
Yeah, it was nice part was
Else.
Okay, right, new table, yeah, okay. Just the new table.
You leave that guy too much.
Dude, that is like one of the best memes.
Yeah.
The best structures.
Yeah.
So you're just
That's
afraid
the
of
post data to tables.
What?
That's the post. Okay.
And in the poster, you can choose to return like you can choose to return, it's this, like, status successful or something.
Did my
If
part.
you want to. You don't have to. But if you have logic in your Ajax,
What is this, your first
say, if whatever, if you have data, then you need to go into the,
Okay, like, can I just put return console dot log table?
well, you can't return a console log.
I mean, okay.
This is the thing.
You have to return some.
This is the big framework. This is the library we're using now.
So a shorthanded way to return
On your own.
that meme kind of died out.
Oh.
Don't worry about me. I'm just getting my truck. I'm not using anything.
So this is just returning
Oh
object.
This is a bad move.
So this is just returning only properties.
No. Well, actually, last time I took it up, regardless of which one we
They're not
press,
people. Doesn't count.
We've successfully created, an object that
Yeah.
pushes
I'm
it.
sorry.
And then in
It's like 5 presidents together.
Yeah, I almost used all of them.
So in here, so now data actually has. So in here,
We're trying to go more upper class.
Right back below.
I'm going with that. I just like that. All I have to do is put in. But it comes up to
Would you do me a favor? Delete your live program there. And I'm gonna make my own.
since we are returning something, data.
Because I wanna have my own.
This object here, and then because data is an object, it has a property called success. Success.
All right. Can I have your attention for a few minutes? All right.
Okay.
So, do you guys have any general questions about this exercise? So I did two things. I did the HTML route and I did the API route. Okay. The rest of them are kind of going to follow. Are there any conceptual or anything that's kind of confusing? Does everybody at least understand what's going on from the front end? How do you communicate with your back end and get the data back? All right, you need to use your jQuery, make AJAX call from your HTML pages. Okay, and then your routes will be created on your backend on your server. Okay, now initially when I started, all my routes were in the same file. Then I just separated them out into different files, and I was using module.export to kind of get those routes out. But basically, I'm using Express, and I'm sending a file. This is my HTML route, and for my API route, I'm just sending the JSON for tables. Okay, when you're trying to add, yes.
I just had a question about the export real quick. I thought, that might be an object, is that not the case with the function?
No, it's a. Remember, I showed you function also. You can do objects and you can do functions also. Yeah. So this is actually, if you see, this is a function within a function. So I'm kind of isolating this everything. So the next route that I'm going to create, I'm going to say app.get whatever. So when I do this, it's going to execute both of the routes. Okay. All right. So this is how the and then what I did was I went ahead and deployed it to Heroku. And again, I didn't do anything different. I just followed the guide from here, introduction. I had my installation for the CLI. Then after this installation, um, this is my project. I cloned it to, well, I uploaded to GitHub. All right. Once that was in GitHub, I did Heroku login in the previous one so that I can log into my account on the terminal. Then it was Heroku create and then git push Heroku master. Once this was successful, I did Heroku open and this opens up my website over here. Okay, again, nothing. I literally didn't do anything different from these 3-4 things. Okay, when I go ahead, kind of shows up. I did have some issues, but then it's kind of nice that they say that you can do Heroku space logs and it tells you what's going on your server. So my routes were kind of messed up, so I had to go back and change some of these routes over here, the way I was getting. Apparently it was not correct, and Heroku was not able to find my files. But when I do Heroku space logs, it kind of shows me all the errors and everything. And that's how I debugged it. Okay. All right. Any general question? I'll post the solution, but I want. Does everybody understand how the structure is? How you are communicating from your front end to the back end? Because this is the most confusing part. People kind of get confused about the HTML part and JavaScript over here versus the routes over here. Again, anything in public is my front end. Okay, that's why I created a folder public and I put all my front end code in my public folder. Okay, everything else over here is all back end. Server.js, routes, data, this is all kind of my back end. Okay, my front end doesn't know any of those things. Yes.
So you didn't put in your JavaScript in your HTML.
Right.
You put a separate with that
Server.js in my backend.
Okay.
Right?
So where'd you put the JavaScript
JavaScript would be in my public folder because that's my front end. So again, all my front end code goes in my public folder. My HTML, my CSS, my front end JavaScript. This is my Node.js code. Again, this is the confusing part. My server.js is my Node.js code. Okay, everybody clear on that? Right? My JavaScript, which I said I'm going to refer. If I say JavaScript, I'm talking about my front end. That's all over here in my public folder. Okay, and my jQuery still over here in my JS file over here. Okay, so this part doesn't know anything about this part. They both are kind of separated out. Okay, and that's where the most confusion comes. Students have a difficult time trying to separate this part out and this part out. This is again your Node.js code. All these things don't work on your JavaScript side. Okay, all my front end code goes in my public folder. That's why you can keep it all in one hierarchy, but this is better. Create a folder so that when you're looking at your code, you know what is front end, what is back end. Okay, so create a public. You will see different flavors of this. Some people call it public, some call it www. You'll see 3 W's. That's also some call it views. You'll see the views folder. They are kind of different names, but most of the time you will see public folder. Okay, it just means this is the front end, this is public facing, and people will be able to see all this code. Right? We know that anything that is inside this folder is accessible on your browser. You can right click, see, and all your code in your public folder is available. Okay?
What did you put in the data folder?
So I had my tables, that array over here, right, in my server.js initially. So I took that and put it in a separate file and did a module.export. Since we know this, I kind of like to separate out. Again, I was referring to Kyle's article that he posted. It's a really good one. Please go and read it. You will see how much that he posted on resources on Slack. So if you read through, one of the good part is always try to see how you can separate those files out. right? My server.js was like, I think like 30 lines before this. Now you see anything that is not required in server.js does not exist over here. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so right now we are still missing one part. Now this table.js, again I said this is just an array in memory data structure. In the coming weeks, we will connect to MySQL. Actually, it's Thursday. Never mind, it's Thursday. So that's the missing piece. So now we have front end, we have our Node.js, right? We are able to talk to it, right? From the front end, how are we talking to our APIs? $.ajax, all right, $.ajax you're using to communicate with these APIs. The only part is you're storing this is an array. On Thursday we'll be storing this is in our SQL databases. So it will be like complete full stack, front end, middleware, and then your SQL databases. Okay, so I would highly recommend please go back and revise this stuff, especially your Node.js, your routes, and how we are creating Express. Okay, make sure you clearly understand which part is the front end, which is a Node.js, which goes where. Because by Thursday we are adding one more layer, database, right? So that's even more kind of piling up on it. Okay. All right. So Nick will introduce the homework, and then Troy will send out the quiz, and that will be the end of the class. Okay.
Which homework is it?
It's the friends thing.
Oh, the French one? Okay.
It's over here. You can if you want. I think you just have to demo the app.
Oh, okay. Is this it right here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can go back. I think I was just trying to see how.
Okay.
Very, very familiar app. Logo.
You know what that is?
It's friend finder. Friends with Amazon.
Okay. So for for the homework, so you guys will basically be building a friend finder app. Essentially, it'll look very similar to what you guys worked on today. So we'll have a home page, and then we'll have a few links at the bottom here. So the friends list is just going to be a list of list of friends that we're storing once we fill out the survey, and we will have a link to the GitHub repo, and then a button to go to survey. So when we go to the survey, essentially what you'll do is you'll fill out some info here. Now the link to photo image. So keep this simple. You can just go to like Google Images, pick out an image, and throw in the URL in here, because most likely it's probably going to be some kind of URL, since we're not really storing images anywhere. So again, best thing to do, just find some URL on Google on Google Images, and then we'll go through and answer questions for this survey. Oops. And so forth. Once you finish answering all the questions, when you hit submit, please fill out all fields. Did I not fill out a field? The what now? Oh. So once we fill this out, we'll submit, and our best match is G with a photo of a small puppy. So so pretty self-explanatory. Now here's the thing that we're actually going to be looking for. So let's say you fill out a survey, literally same results here. If we click submit, it cannot do that, because essentially what like if you fill out just duplicate information, we don't want to match with the same person that you just like matched with, I guess.
Yeah.
So you want to match with like the closest, closest person, depending on the calculated scores here. So like this is basically just duplicate data. So we want to go away from matching with duplicate data, basically. So you can have another person and fill out the same scores, and then that person will match with the other. But if you hit submit again as the duplicate, data, we don't want to match with the duplicate data. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Hopefully that's not confusing.
You're essentially resubmitting the same form.
Yeah.
It's already been submitted, so it's like your best match is you.
Yeah, exactly. And so it very well could be. So we will look at that. But that's basically the gist of this assignment, is to essentially fill out some info, answer some survey questions, and then hit submit. Also, notice up top, we're you guys will be using Express here, so we'll have different routes: one for survey and one for homepage, and then also one for retrieving a list of people that have filled out the survey. And you'll see that that's really long. And you'll see that the three that I submitted with the same scores. So this is essentially duplicate data that we don't want to match with. But essentially we're storing that. I don't think you guys are using MySQL for this assignment. So similar to how we've been storing stuff for like the Star Wars activity, just use a simple array and store objects inside that. As you can see, name, photos, and scores. So does that make sense? Yeah. Any questions?
You go to the instructions. It's kind of nicely labels out the folder structure. This is what I kind of was following today. So it should be familiar. This is just one example that you can follow if you have a different folder structure in mind.
Yeah.
That's fine, but this is kind of different.
Yep.
It's the same one that I was just following.
Yep. Folder structure is very important. Keeps all your stuff organized, so that way you know where to look. And also, make sure you guys do not forget a git ignore. Otherwise, you will be pushing your node modules folder to GitHub. Not that that's not bad. It's just not correct.
Yeah.
So we don't want to push node modules folder in there, because if you guys start creating apps where you're using like 30 different NPM packages, obviously it's going to be a fairly big folder, and we don't want to push that into your GitHub repository. So make sure you guys have that git ignore file in there, and then the instructions in here are are pretty clear and detailed as far as what you should be storing, the routes that you need to have, and also how to essentially calculate the scores here. So if it's not clear, you guys are more than welcome to ask us about it, and we'll give you an answer for it. So any questions? Fair enough. We'll have the quiz sent out here in a second, and after that, you guys are good to go home.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.